Hello, students. Today we are talking about the topic of schizophrenia. This is a picture of John Nash, a brilliant mathematician and economist. He was Nobel Prize winner and he also suffered from schizophrenia. He is featured in the movie, or his story is featured in the movie A Beautiful Mind, starring Russell Crowe and Ed Harris. And it is an excellent movie. I do recommend it for getting a feel of what it's like to be in the mind of someone who has schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a very difficult disorder to describe because it is so complex. I recommend that you look up the YouTube video that I have here on Louis Wayne, the artist, who you can see the progression of his disease through his artwork. So here in this particular piece of art, he has portrayed a cat very realistically and beautifully. Obviously, you can see he's a very good artist. He also liked to anthropomorphize his cats, and so I call this a cat and his catty. And in this one, you see a very happy and jovial, and the cat and the little one is sort of like sneaking up on the bigger cat, but it's still very, very fine artwork and delightful. And then his artwork gets to be more extreme colors, more jagged edges. And if you look at the eyes of the two small cats on the bottom right, they look different. So you compare this to this, and there's just something quite different about the style of art. Now, he's still a very, very good artist, certainly something that I couldn't do, but something has changed. And then we see that his artwork becomes more of a psychedelic nature, and this is the 1920s. So this was before even something like LSD came on the scene, where maybe someone was having an LSD trip and doing artwork. Um, this is a picture I think that really portrays something we often see, which is like this feeling of like someone's going to be electrocuted when they have schizophrenia, and it kind of looks that way, like they've got a shock and their hair is on end and their eyes look either scared or angry. It's hard to really interpret what Louis Wayne was thinking at the time, but it's not a picture I want in my house. So all four of these pictures sort of show the progression of his illness. Here, he's in the beginning stages. Here, he gets that more electrified look. Here, he gets just a really funky look. And here is almost unrecognizable as a cat. So this is topic 7 in our course, schizophrenia. And schizophrenia is really a cluster or a group of severe disorders characterized by, first of all, a breakdown of personality. It's really quite tragic to see, and I have seen it a couple of times in my life, where someone reaches young adulthood and they seem to have a really great path ahead of them, and then they start experiencing paranoia or delusions or just odd thinking that just doesn't make sense. Their emotions, their perceptions, their thoughts are distorted. People are trying to kill me. My parents are, drug dealers, whatever the case may be, really distorted emotions, perceptions, and thoughts. This disease occurs in 1% of the population worldwide, so we know that it is a biologically distinct disease, although much of it still needs to be uncovered. So, what are the diagnostic criteria? The first one is 2 or more of the following for 1 month, including number 1, number 2, or number 3. Delusions. These are firmly held false beliefs. Just like you believe you're listening to this screencast right now, someone might have a delusion about something that seems as real as you listening to me talking over this screencast. These delusions take some different forms. Some people will have a delusion of grandeur. I heard of someone once who believed that she could sing beautifully, like Celine Dion, and she even recorded an album, and she was nothing like Celine Dion. Or someone might think that they are Jesus or Gandhi or some really important person. Delusions of persecution are quite often common in someone with schizophrenia. They believe someone is coming after them as they're trying to kill them. They're going to electrocute them. They're going to shoot them. And this is a very common delusion. They're following me, this bottom thought bubble here. It's they, whoever they are. Maybe it's the CIA. Maybe it's the KGB. Maybe it's the aliens. It's hard to know. Delusions of sin or guilt. I did something really terrible, and that's why a terror attack happened. A delusion of influence is when they believe that somebody's telling them to do something, like an angel or a demon or an alien. The aliens are contacting me. This is not uncommon at all. And then a delusion of reference is something like this top thought bubble. The radio told me to free all the zoo animals. So they might hear something on the radio or on TV or read something in a newspaper or online and think that they're referring directly to them and something that they should do. The second diagnostic criteria are hallucinations. These are false perceptions. Just as you're hearing my voice right now, they might indeed be hearing voices. Oftentimes, these are a running dialogue that are often uncomplimentary to the individual. You're so stupid. Why do you think you can do this? You're so ugly. And these voices can just be, they can't mute them out. And so I see this woman here and I just think, oh my gosh, like I just want to get rid of this voice in my head. Now, occasionally the voices can be nice, and when people are treated and they don't have the voices anymore, they actually miss them. But usually the voices, again, very different from just thinking to yourself. These are actual auditory voices for the person who experiences this. Some people have visual hallucinations, not nearly as common. This is not going to be like seeing a person sitting next to you. It'll be more of something like a distortion in the area around you or a distortion of colors. Occasionally, someone will have a hallucination of a tactile nature, touch. They'll feel like bugs crawling under their skin, or taste, or smell. These are far less common than the auditory hallucinations. And the final one of the three that are required for this diagnosis is disorganized speech. This is sometimes called word salad or incoherence or derailment. So I'm going to show you a short clip of this man here whose name is Nathaniel Ayers. He was destined to be a great cellist in one of the great orchestras of the world as a student at Juilliard when the disease of schizophrenia overtook him.
Street corner.
Shlomo.
Mr. Lopez would find that Mr. Ayers, now 58, was once a hugely gifted young musician accepted by Juilliard, the country's preeminent music school, whose talent and future were crushed by the weight of a devastating, incurable mental illness, paranoid schizophrenia. His passion for music is perfectly clear. His illness becomes obvious as he tries to describe Beethoven.
And there he is, still there. The consternation. And he's complete with another symphony, the elucidation, and my mind goes, wow, And the bird droppings are wiped away by the workers. And he's just as real and green as the next tree or beautiful a scene.
Down tunnel where he...
So that is an example of word salad or incoherence. You could tell that his thoughts were disorganized. They were expressed in a way that isn't typical. His talent is still obvious, but he wears this foil coat here to ward off demons or ghosts or aliens that might be around. Nathaniel Ayers was extraordinarily gifted and this disease had a really devastating effect on him, as it does on everyone. You might see grossly disorganized or catatonic behavior. So, with schizophrenia might have what we call extremely high activity levels. So, they might have odd movements like rocking or rubbing or pacing back and forth. Or they might have catatonia, where they are actually frozen in a posture for several hours at a time. Finally, a negative symptom. The other symptoms we've talked about would be called positive symptoms because they're a greater expression from normal. The negative symptoms include flat affect, which is a very, very unusual thing to witness. I've only seen it really a couple of times where an individual and their eyes and their facial expression have actually nothing behind them. It's a haunting and quite strange experience, I have to say. So that is one of the things that you might see with someone with schizophrenia. And lack of hygiene is actually quite common. There is a form of schizophrenia, but it's actually called brief reactive psychosis, where there's a sudden onset of these schizophrenia type symptoms, but then just as suddenly as it comes, it leaves and it lasts for less than 1 month. The age of onset for schizophrenia is somewhere between 16 to 25, 18 being the average for men, and between 25 and 40, average age of 30 for women. So the difference between men and women, not completely understood. We do think it has something to do with the later stages of brain development. However, a 30-year-old woman has often had children and is more likely to pass this potential for schizophrenia on to her offspring. I'm going to stop here and we'll look at biological causes of schizophrenia treatment in the next screencast.